we've got such a lot to talk about today, and I'm really excited to have you on. So welcome.
Yeah, great to be here, Alex. It really
So,
is.
oh no, well, it's all my pleasure. And what really, if we kind of start off with what really kind of attracted me to your message was that in your bio you say, imagine threatening your kids all day long, feeding them ice cream for breakfast, leaving them to watch an iPad for hour after hour, and then wondering why they're unhealthy, disconnected, and misbehaving. And this is something that I've been thinking about more and more with my time in clinic and seeing all the dogs that I do. But I think that's a fantastic message. So kind of what's that all about? What led to that thinking? What does it mean?
Well, I mean, if I give you the example of what happened last night, it was absolutely wonderful. I worked with a 75 kilogram. So what are we talking there? We're talking 140 pound, 140 pound, I think 150 pound Great Dane. And he is the most beautiful boy. He's kind of just wants to play, and he will not give in. And they're loving him and giving him what he wants and giving him what he wants, and just playing with him because he wants to play. The problem is when they go outside, they can't stop it. There's no off switch. It's almost like that fairy tale where the porridge pot just keeps making porridge and they can't stop it. And the dear lady who lives there, the owner, she weighs less than the dog does.
Yeah.
And so when this dog doesn't want to walk, he lies down. She can't move him. So the point is, all the bad habits are being formed in the house at home. And you can't kind of have a child who's so badly behaved at home and then expect them to behave differently when they're outside. And you can't have a dog who's so badly behaved at home. And you're kind of cheating. You're kind of using all the, oh, my dog's barking. I'll just give him some more treats. Oh, he's barking again. He wants some more treats. I just got to keep giving him treats. He likes his treats. And then expect the dog to suddenly be a well-behaved dog when you're out on the street. So that's kind of where it's coming from. And if I'm really honest, we had a similar experience with our children. We had some pretty average rules around the dinner table. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was maybe you're allowed to we had indoor and outdoor rules. And I think one of the rules was, you could, I don't know, flick peas at your sister, something terrible like that. Well, I think we found ourselves in a restaurant and our children were only like 3 or 4 years old at the time. We went to a restaurant or something and suddenly they were flicking peas at each other. And it was like, well, hang on. We've only got ourselves to blame here. We have terrible, quote, quote, we called it outdoor manners.
Yeah.
And the kids hadn't made the adjustment that when you're in a fairly posh restaurant, you're not meant to flick peas at each other. It was something along those lines. You have to be consistent. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from the treat example, I often say that our dogs are very good at training us as well, in the sense that, oh, I'm going to buy every time I bark, I get treats. Hey, this barking's pretty good. And I see that with fussy,
yes.
Small dogs being very fussy, and then as a consequence of that, being overweight because they don't get given
Yeah.
good food. They get given all the table scraps because they're training their owner to give them the table scraps by turning their nose up. But we'll jump into this in a little bit later. But you've kind of got that fantastic book, and I mean, maybe it's one that I want to need to get because my kids don't flick peas, but their table manners can sometimes be pretty appalling. So yeah, talk to us a little bit more about your book.
Well, the reason for waving the book around is basically, as you're talking, I'm thinking there's a whole chapter in this book which is called Humans Are Not Logical. And when you talk about the dogs training us, the dogs are so logical. They are so logical. They go, what did I do to get that to have happen? So if they bark at the door or they bark at the window and we shout, Boris, stop barking. And he does one more bark and then we shout, come here. Good boy, Boris. Well done for stop barking, and give him a treat. Boris is just following logic when he says, if I go to the window and bark and she says, stop barking, and then I stop barking or bark one more time and then get called over, then I get my treat.
Yeah.
And so the book called What the Dogs Taught Me About Being a Parent is lots of different chapters about lots of different things about the similarities between training dogs and training children. But one chapter is it's literally called Humans Are Not Logical, because we don't spot the logic.
Yeah.
We don't spot the fact that there's a pattern and the dog's just following a pattern.
Yeah.
And in summary, when it comes to this training inside around the house, a lot of what I see is a lot of what's basically happening is that the dogs they're just so logical at the end of the day. They're so logical. They're following that pattern. We're not seeing it. and we're ending up in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, we're trying to make things a lot more complicated than perhaps they really are. But we'll jump into kind of how your training kind of ethos and philosophy in a little bit. But how did you kind of start with this dog training, adventure that you're on? Because it's not what your background is at all, is it?
No. So I actually did a civil engineering degree at Birmingham University. That's where I started. That's where I come from. And there was no jobs in civil engineering, so I actually became a maths teacher.
Okay.
I had one of those kind of logical brains, I guess. I loved numbers, loved logic. But then I realized I couldn't work with children for the rest of my life. I was going to end up not wanting children, to be honest. I realized, hang on, if I work with them all day, I won't want any of my own. And that was just me. So I became a policeman because I had a big heart and I wanted to help people. And I thought, well, that's a great way to help people. But that didn't quite. I mean, I could do these jobs, but I wasn't passionate about them, is the best way to put it. So I got into sales of IT systems and then emigrated to New Zealand where I did the same thing. And I kind of just moved around jobs going, I can do this job. I worked for a large wine company with a sales team. And then finally I thought, I have to find my passion. I have to find my passion. I'm not. It was almost like I realized I was going to live a life where I'd done okay, I'd done well, I could do all these jobs, I'd had experiences, but I had never fulfilled that burning desire in my core to do something that I was so passionate about, that I loved. And also I wanted to discover almost that Dr. Dolittle speaking with the animals. I wanted to communicate with animals and understand what really makes these dogs tick. And I actually went to a careers advisor and worked with her, and she helped me understand. She said, if you look at your life, you've always loved dogs. You've always loved dogs. And I never had a dog growing up, but I was always passionate about them. So I just jumped both feet straight in every minute of every day for many, many years. And finally discovered kind of what I now know and put it all together. And found some beautiful methods out there on the journey.
Yeah, and that's led you to work with hundreds and thousands of dogs. I mean, you've had a real range, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I've been to over 3,000 households to work with their dogs.
Wow.
So it actually got to the stage where I was visiting the same house many, many years later when they'd moved out. And I'm walking into houses going, this is like deja vu. I recognize this house. And then I'd actually say, I know I'm working with Squeaky the Chihuahua, but did the people who used to live here have a German Shepherd? And they'd go, yeah, they did. Yeah, I came here about 8 years ago. So.
Yeah. Were they leaving your card on the fridge when they moved?
I don't know what, but it happened more than once. So I thought, right, I've been around the traps now. Maybe it's time to. Yeah.
Oh no, that's fantastic. And then you've helped all of the dogs online, which we'll jump to kind of later and talk about all that kind of aspect of what you're doing, which is fantastic as well. But you kind of spoke then about, learning the trade and spending many hours and then kind of coming to the conclusions that, and the training methods. And what I kind of really love is kind of jumping online and looking at some of the things you do. We talk about being leader of the pack and we talk about being an alpha in our home pack. But, when we think of that, or when I think of that, I think of kind of a lot of old fashioned, like, real dominance, real force, shouting, physical, hitting, all that kind of thing. But that's, that's really not the way, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I've got one of the biggest hearts. I got one of the biggest hearts. I really have. And I'm a lover, not a fighter at the end of the day. I really am, I might be a big guy, but I got a big heart. And, I'm a father of 2 children. And that's why I wrote the book, because the way I work with my dogs and train the dogs is the way I am as a father, which is it's all about the love. And with my children, it's not about it's not about an overuse of treats and chocolate. I have to say, if being a good parent was just about finding the right sweets and chocolate to train your children, no one would have a problem with parenting. But unfortunately, it isn't. It's way harder than just finding the right sweets or treats to bribe your children. And I'm also not a big fan of, smacking kids and hitting kids and forcing kids. I always said it's just not the way to use that force and even scare tactics with children. I'm not a big fan of threats and raising that voice. And yet I'm the first to admit I did start to struggle. It was when I've developed a lot as a human being, but it's that path. It's the similarity between finding how to connect with your children in a calm, gentle, kind, loving way, and realizing it's that same energy which the dog is actually really wanting.
Yeah.
That when you can hold that presence with the dog and say, I got this, I know what's going on, and I'm in charge is probably the best way of putting it. And I love you, and I'm going to look after you. Trust me, respect me, trust me, follow me, and I will look after you. When you know how to do with that with the dog, then you can win round an 80 kilogram, was 170 pound Great Dane.
Yeah.
And that's why when I left these lovely couple last night, they were so excited because they've used all the treats. And they're getting backed into a corner because the dog's basically saying, when I do this, you feed me. And if you don't, you're in trouble because you have not won my mind.
Yeah.
And with that dog, you can't physically overpower him. So they were really in trouble because neither of those approaches works.
Yeah.
The bribery, the physical force. But what was missing was this ability to form a really deep connection with the dog, which said, I'm in charge, I'm running the show, and you really need to listen to me. And that's almost the training that needs to happen in and around the house before they even leave the house. Because if you get it right in the house, you're going to be okay outside. And
everything else follows.
and we have that same problem with our kids. You know, we think we can have terribly behaved kids and threaten them and bribe them and all the rest of it behind closed doors, and they're suddenly going to behave outside. But it doesn't quite work like
that way. They do know how to push our buttons sometimes, I find, but
oh yeah,
we can all, you know, it's aiming for that consistency, isn't it? And we're all human and we're all fallible. I mean, one thing I wonder if a lot of people get in trouble with how they're treating their dogs is because dogs, you know, they've moved from being outside in the kennel to inside to in the bedroom, and they're part of the family. And that's something that absolutely I fundamentally agree with and believe that animal human bond is huge, but we're treating them as mini people, as children rather than as dogs. And so that communication is kind of, it's confusing them because it's not how they need to be addressed and it's not how they feel safe.
Yeah. I think one of the things, I think you're absolutely right, is where do we draw that line between we love them, they're part of the family, however they're dogs. And so don't get me wrong. I mean, I love my dogs so much. I feel like I give them so much love, attention. You know, Jack's got a woolly jacket. He sleeps indoors on a merino bed. He has a blanket which you put over him. He's a 70-pound big, strong, beefy boy, but he whines at night, which basically means he wants wrapping up.
Yeah.
And it's I'll put my hand up and admit, it was one of the times I made the mistake of saying, if you whine because you're cold, I'll get out of bed and come and wrap you up. Well, that became a big problem because it was like he was whining twice a night. And, so we bought him a jacket. So all I'm saying is I have a big heart for my dogs when it comes to them, But there also has to be this place where I'm in charge, my wife's in charge. Just like with the children, at the end of the day, if you wind it back, it's why I love referring back to children in a way and drawing those similarities. Because I love my children, but they don't make the big decisions. Yeah. They don't say to us, Dad, I want, they're only age 10 years old, 9 and 10. But they don't tell us what to do. Ultimately, my wife and I make decisions on where we're going to go on holiday. And when they're very young, you see, when the kids are very young, they make even less big decisions. So I would say think of your dogs, even though they're super intelligent, as very young kids, where you need to be making the majority of the decisions, not letting your children say, I want to eat chocolate now, I want to dance on the bonnet of the car, I want to sit in the driver's seat, I don't want to go to bed.
Yeah. Do you want to wear the green or the red socks? That's the decision that you get to make. And then they're hopefully wearing socks.
Exactly, wearing socks. So you let the dogs have these tiny little decisions. Yeah. Do you want to run left or right? Do you want to run over there or over there? But when I blow my whistle or when I shout your name, that's not optional. You come running to me. Yeah. Yeah. And so we give our dogs so many decisions and let them make so many things because we think it's cute, or we just feel like we're hurting their feelings, or we overlove them, or he likes he likes eating his dinner at the table with me. Yeah.
Yeah. but if we're putting those boundaries in place, they actually feel happier and more comfortable and safer, don't they?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, separation anxiety is one of the classic examples of people. It's so misunderstood, and it's so simple, in my opinion, that separation anxiety is not a boredom thing. And you can see that because 99% of owners come home, dog's been barking their head off, annoying the neighbors, destroyed the house, it's stressed, he's not happy, he's been running around in circles, he's chewed the washing, he's dug huge holes, he's not settled. You know, my dogs, you leave them for 5 hours, they just lie there, they just relax in the sun. No worries in the world, meditating and happy. And that's how most dogs should be. But these dogs with separation anxiety are so stressed. And yet when you walk in the house, most people say, well, he just lies down when I come home.
Yeah.
He's been digging holes and chewing washing and barking all day long. And a lot of people who have a barky dog go, I've never heard him bark. He never barks until you leave the house, and then he's super stressed. And the reason for it is because, in my opinion, it's very much a hierarchy thing where the dog says, I'm in charge and I'm meant to be looking after you. They've established themselves as the one who's meant to be looking after the owner. And of course, you go to work every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. Poor dog's left there going, I can't look after you. So it's almost like a mother or a parent who's meant to be looking after a baby. Baby wanders off out the house at 8 o'clock in the morning up onto the main road. Well, the mum, as a human, you don't just sit down if your child's on the main road outside. You don't sit down, make a cup of tea and go, oh, good, I'll have a break and get the magazine out and start reading. You do whatever you can to get that baby back under your care so you can look after them. And that's very much what the dogs do. I've worked with a dog who he smashed through 2 car windows to get out of the car because he was so determined he had to get back to his owner. And the owner was buying fish and chips. So you imagine a huge mastiff comes in the fish and chip shop covered in blood because he smashed through a window. And the lady went, oh, it's okay, it's my dog. He just wants to be with me.
Yeah.
That's what they'll do to kind of feel like, I need to look after you. I'm coming to...
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what they will do, and the destruction levels and the damage they'll do is just incredible. And a lot of people are having problems like that at the moment, or will soon to have problems like that with pandemic puppies across the world. I mean, I know my colleagues are seeing a lot of that. I'm sure people in your kind of sphere are seeing that problem and treating that. And it's always better if we can prevent these problems, just like anything. I mean, the obesity that I spoke about at the very beginning, if we can prevent that from ever being a problem, our dogs will be so much happier and healthy. If we can prevent these feelings of anxiety, then how much happier are our pets going to be? So a big question that we can only talk about for a few minutes, but how can we go about having this gentle approach, but still being being in charge and being the alpha?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, and this is my real passion: understanding how do you say to the dog, "I'm in charge." It's and still be loving. I mean, a very good example is how we interact with our dogs: the pats, cuddles, and affection. And most people, the dogs kind of walk up to you, and they kind of jump up on your lap if it's a little dog, or stick their head between your legs, and if you sat on the couch, or flop on top of you. And say, kind of, give me a pat, give me a cuddle, and the owners immediately go, oh, he loves me, and yeah, nah, as we say in New Zealand, yeah, nah, kind of. But if I walk up to my wife and I lean on her and say, hey, babes, I love you so much, just massage me here, I've got a sore shoulder. That's it. And then when she stops massaging me, I kind of point and go, hey, don't stop. I didn't say so. Keep going, just keep going. And my wife would not go, oh, he loves me so much, he wants me to massage him, he loves me. She wouldn't do that. She'd say, So basically, when our dogs walk up to us and say, massage me here, pat me here, stroke me, they're just telling us what to do. Sure, they may love us, but at the end of the day, they're telling us they want affection, they want pats and cuddles. Now, do it. And we, being whatever it is, we just want to go into that zone of loving our dogs. We kind of oblige. So all you have to do is that, and this is just a very small example, you flip it around, that pats, cuddles, and affection, and basically, when you want to give your dog pats and cuddles and affection, you call the dog over. So instantly, you're already training a recall. That may sound no big deal, and you might go, well, what's that going to do? That is huge. Immediately, what you're doing is, because the other part of it is, the flip side is, if your dog comes up to you and says, give me a pat, you kind of just close your body language down, fold your arms, close your legs, turn your body away a little bit. And if the dog's little and jumps on top of you, you pick them, you're sitting on the couch, you pick them up, put them on the floor. And what you're doing is you say, I'm not like a rug that you just come and jump on, or a trampoline. I'm not just a big cushion to lie on. And I'm just not a massaging machine. And so you make your pats and cuddles very valuable, because the dog starts going, well, how do I get pats, cuddles, and affection? I would love some affection. You're not being mean. You're just saying, you get pats, cuddles, and affection. You just got to listen for your name. And when I say your name and you come running, you get pats, cuddles, and affection. And lo and behold, you get that happening around the house. Then you go to the park and you call the dog's name and the dog comes running.
Yeah. And
then if you throw, well, you don't need to use food treats.
Yeah.
You're right. However, if you really want to boost it, that's when you can start using the food treats as well, because
yeah, but they become then a tool in your toolkit rather than the only thing that you carry around with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
that's right.
Yeah, so that's
and
fantastic.
you use them like a little jackpot, so it's kind of random. You use treats randomly every now and then, so the dog never knows when they're going to get the food treats, and using them randomly is just so much more powerful than just getting one every single time.
Yeah, but I think the way you describe that working is it's beautiful, really, because I think people don't realize how much the dogs just want pets, cuddles, and affection, and how powerful that is. And so actually doing it on our terms is it's fantastic. So
the other way of putting it, you see, is I always say, if you keep giving your pets, cuddles, and affection away for free, it becomes worthless. I mean, even that microphone in front of you and my microphone in front of me, I mean, it's $100, Captain. But if you could pick up boxes of these microphones at the gas station, the petrol station, take as many of these mics as you want, we can't sell this microphone for $10. People would be like, no, they're giving them away for free at the gas station. I'm not buying that off you. It loses all its value if it's free.
Yeah, absolutely. And they caught on to that very quickly. And
they do.
And they train us to be massage machines, which I love that phrase as well. It's brilliant. So that's obviously a fraction of the technique, but it's a very powerful thing that people can start, and it doesn't take any equipment. It doesn't take anything special for people to start doing that. And I imagine they'll see changes pretty quickly once they start implementing these ideas.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to work with people, the way I work is I go to their houses and work with them for a couple of hours, 2 hours. And really, it's actually edutainment. It's not just education, it's entertainment as well thrown in there. So it's 2 hours of education with a bit of entertainment. And basically what I'm doing is just sharing with people how to put this in place. Within that 2 hours, very often I've got dogs eating out of my hand. Not physically eating food, but just they are just like so obedient. And these are dogs who the people thought they were untrainable and very often about to get rid of them because they just think they can't be trained. So it can happen that fast. Often a good measure is kind of within a couple of days, you're seeing some big changes. And within a couple of weeks, you really have got pretty much a different dog.
Yeah, because they're smart. Dogs are smart, and they'll soon cotton on, and they soon pick everything up. I mean, I find it amazing. Like the range of dogs that I see in the clinic, we'll get the working dogs come in. They don't need a lead. They do exactly what the owner wants. I mean, we have them coming in with broken legs that are, flapping in the breeze, and it makes your stomach turn a little bit, but they're quite happy. They'll let you examine them because they trust, they trust the person, and they trust humans, whether that's me who's never met them before or their owner. And then you have other dogs that they're a bit anxious and maybe they're pulling on the lead, they're not that well behaved, but actually if we're having them in for a surgery or something like that, they still know kind of their place, if you like, and they'll listen to us, and you go in the cage, and they'll quite happily walk in, even though we've never met them before. I think that's probably our body language and how we're interacting with them as well. And then we've got other dogs that are just they are the boss in their household. And there is no way that we're doing anything with them that they don't want to. Thankfully, they're normally pretty small, so we can pick them up and carry them and put them in their cage. But that even for me, I think I could probably get a good idea of where the dog and the human sit in that
absolutely
that kind of pyramid.
Absolutely, and it is a lot of the little dogs are. I don't know if this is doggist, but a lot of the little dogs can break more of the rules because they're so cute. Is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
And
we can manhandle them when we need them as well. So owners can pick them up and hold them on the lead when they can't with that Great Dane.
That's right. So those little dogs often become worse behaved because they think they're really in charge, and they become more stressed. So I see more stressed little dogs than big
Yeah,
dogs because
yeah,
they get away with stuff that big dogs just wouldn't. I mean, you might have little Fido sat on his little chair waiting for a little bit of nibble off the table, but you wouldn't have the 80 kilogram Great Dane sat on a chair at the table. I
yeah.
mean, I mean, I literally had a. If I could tell you a quick story, I had one lady. She said to me, "We have a problem. My dog barks at night." I said, "Okay." She said, "My husband and I have really had it. We've had enough of it. He's barking all night long." I said, "Okay, describe the situation." She said, "Well, the dog sleeps in our bed, and he actually he sleeps on my husband's pillow, kind of on top of his head, on his head, and they'll hear a noise, and he'll just start barking." And we've done everything we can, and nothing works. And I listened, kind of smiling, because I've done this a long time. I said to her, because it was a small dog, I think it was a dachshund or something.
Yeah.
I said, "Shall I tell you the real problem?" She said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "The real problem, Margaret, is your husband has a dog on his head." She said, "I don't understand." I said, "The real problem, Margaret, your husband is sleeping with a dog on his head." She said, "Oh, I see. You think that's part of the problem?" I said, "Margaret, imagine this was a German Shepherd dog who demanded these. And so these little dogs, they get away with all sorts of things, and we don't see the funny side." I mean, I think
Yeah,
she
that's
got,
brilliant.
yeah,
But when,
it
but
was
when it's
like,
pointed out to her, probably the light
ah,
bulb clicked. I was like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
that makes
She gets,
complete sense. There are
yeah.
probably some people out there who do sit with German Shepherds on their head at night, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure there are. I'm sure
they're
there are.
squashed up to the tiny edge of the mattress.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a whole lot to this process, and you've also got a fantastic online training kind of platform with lots of kind of lessons and a very active forum as well. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, but basically, after I'd worked using this approach for about a year, I realized it was perfectly possible to put this training, because a lot of it is educating the owners, like I say, stuff to do, stuff not to do. And so I created a video website which is called The Online Dog Trainer, and I put in there about 300 short videos. And don't worry, you don't have to watch them all, but there's a key section called the dog calming code, and that is the bit where you win your dog's mind. You put the dog calming code in place, and it's a very powerful program, because it's usually the bit which is underpinning everything or not underpinning everything, where you get your dog to listen, focus on you, calm down, switch off, and become that happy, relaxed dog. And then you can put the training on top of that. So the onlinedogtrainer.com website is basically where you can, if you're interested in finding out more about this method, there's a $1 trial currently. It's been there for many, many years. So it's absolutely kind of, check it out, see if you like it. It's a $1 trial for 3 days, $1.
Yeah,
And you get
and
in
that's a
there,
real
you see it all.
no-brainer. And I'll say, because I've kind of jumped in there and spent a little bit, not a huge amount of time, but from, for $1 trial, you'll get you'll get amazing value if you know, as soon as you get in, and you'll appreciate that. I guess because a lot of training, and it's the principles and the education, like you say. So you don't need to have somebody in person, and at the current time, wherever you are in the world, it may be that that's not an option for you as well, but it doesn't mean that you can't get the benefit of having an experienced dog trainer, help you with your problem. So I think online training from that point of view is hugely, hugely valuable.
Absolutely. Plus the fact I paid a lot of money to have a cameraman come around with me, and he videoed me for hundreds and hundreds of hours. And we took all the best bits, the funniest, the best clips, which highlighted things, incidences, and we edited them down, hundreds of videos, and they're all in there. So in fact, what you see is the highlights of hundreds and hundreds of consults.
Yeah.
You get to see all the highlights, which if I come around to your house, you don't actually get to see that. You just see.
Yeah, and seeing all those different real world examples is
and the other thing is, for puppies, you can see the whole. I've got a program in there, a project called Project Moses, which is me raising my puppy from 8 weeks through to 8 months. Can you imagine seeing the same puppy at 8 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, up to 8 months, and you can see him now aged kind of 8 years old. So you see the whole transition, and
and giving you that step by step. Because a lot of the time, I think with a lot of things with health and with training, we think, oh well, what's next, or what's the next thing that we need to be thinking about? Oh, I don't want to miss out, or oh no, I'm a bit too late with that, or whatever. So that's an amazing way of doing that.
Yeah.
And then kind of just to finish off, Dan, I mean, this has been I mean, I love talking to people like you because I learn a lot. Like, I'm not a trainer. I mean, I work with dogs, but I've
Yeah.
yeah, never trained my own dog, and so I always learn a huge amount, which is one of the joys of me doing what I do. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so your background is not in dog training, but you've become, this very successful dog trainer who's helped, countless dogs, both in person and online. This, the people listening to this are going to love dogs, and there's a lot of, change in the world at the minute. Anyone can become a dog trainer, can't they, with the right kind of mentoring and the right instruction?
I would say people, if you're interested in having a dog business, and it doesn't have to be full time at all. It's really about if you have that passion for dogs, and you'd like to know more about actually helping people with dogs rather than just training your own dog. I do have a website, a program called Dog Trainer Academy, and dogtraineracademy.org is basically a membership site which I put together. It's a full program which about 120, 140 people, I think, now have been through around the world. So right through from Japan to the UK to Canada, America, obviously. And people have just gone in there and they can see full consults of me working with dogs from start to finish, that full 2 hours, as well as a lot of other training, which helps people kind of go, wow, I could step into this. And the two main things I would say you need if you would like to work with dogs, the two things which will really help you. One is a love of dogs, obviously, a passion to help dogs. The other one, and this is the one that people don't get, is an ability to get on with people or care a little bit about it. You have to care a little bit about people. You can't hate people, put it that way. That's the other way of putting it. You can't hate people and love dogs. Well, you can, but you're going to struggle because a lot of this is about educating and loving people and wanting to help. So if you're sitting there going, I don't know if I'll be a good dog trainer or could work with dogs, if you love people, if you like helping people, then maybe check it out. Go to dogtraineracademy.org.
Yeah, I think that's the same with being a vet. Like, a lot of people come into the profession, they know from the age of 3 years old that they want to be a vet. That wasn't me. I decided when I was about 17 or 18. But they think I love animals and I just get to work with animals. Some people are absolutely loving the current time because they don't have the owners attached to the animals in the clinic. But actually, I think the biggest joy in my work is actually the relationships that I form with my clients. Sure, the dogs and the cats are fantastic, but those relationships are vital, because if you don't have that relationship with the person, the owner on the end of the lead, then nothing happens. You've got to have that buy-in, and it's exactly the same with training. You're trying to convince people to change the behavior of a lifetime effectively. And they've got to trust you.
Absolutely. And as long as your desire is there to help people and want to become better with people, don't worry if you've never presented or spoken to big groups of people. Part of the beauty of this, the way I work, is I literally drive around to people's houses. They turn up like I'm a celebrity and offer me a cup of tea, and I sit in the big armchair and just start sharing, and they just love it because I have the knowledge that they need, and it's just a case of sitting there. Almost, I see them as a friend. I have a big heart, so I immediately see them as a friend. I want to help and I want to share, and they just want to listen and understand, and then sure, we get to work with the dogs a bit as well. But that's almost an extra. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
And
there's real strong parallels between, I think, anyone who works probably in the dog, cat, pet industry, that if you're working with the animals, you're working with the people as well. But it'll be really good information to learn for people who are dog walkers and pet sitters and all that kind of thing as well, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Anyone who's working with dogs, who runs a doggy daycare, I mean, my goodness me. If you run a doggy daycare and you're listening to this and you really want to know, partly because you can, I worked at a doggy daycare and I'd have 30, I was put in the big dog section, 30 big dogs. So I'd have 30 German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Staffy, Pitty Crosses, and I knew how to control the whole pack, and it was just phenomenal. I've got my dear dog. Can I show you a photo of dear Hudson? This was the king. This was the king. I don't know if you can see it. There he is. That's Hudson. This was the king in my doggy daycare pack.
Yeah.
Hudson was the king, and I watched how he operated in that pack. So my greatest teachers have always been the dogs.
Yeah.
And I watched what he did, because when he entered that pack of 30 dogs, the whole pack calmed down. If I'd turn up, I'd say, is Hudson here today? And they'd say, yep. I'd be like, yes.
My job's going to be
He was
easy.
there. It calmed. job's going to be easy because they all went, he's in charge. Everybody chill out, relax. He's got it all covered. And I just mirrored what he was doing, which was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I share with people. How can you kind of walk into your own household and get your one or two or three or four or whatever, however many dogs you have, to all calm down and settle.
Yeah.
And that's why the main program in my membership site, and which I share with people, is called the Dog Calming Code. Because when they calm down and they listen, they're focused on you.
Yeah. And then they're happier
becomes...
and they're be healthier, and they're going to be living their best life by treating them as a dog and being a family member at the same time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I would say being calm and kind. Calm, clear, and kind is a good summary of how we need to be as parents and
as people in general.
Dog owners, to people in general. Yeah.
Fantastic. Dan, this has been an amazing conversation. I've learnt loads. For everybody who's listening, I'll leave all of the links in the show notes. So definitely go and check out all of those platforms, whatever you're interested. Go and read the book. It's definitely on my shopping list now, so I can understand my kids a little bit better. Thanks so much for spending your time with us, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great to get to know you, Alex. Like you said, it's always part of the fun is getting to know other great people. So great to meet you, and thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care. Bye.